Once again, you're listening to the Paul McGUIRE Report. So there are many important critical takeaways that we must absorb and understand and grasp if we are to survive as a people, and if we are to survive in order to do God's will while we're alive. So let's just review some basic things. First of all, what we have to understand is that this principle that Hitler employed, and Hitler was an occultist, a Satanist, and so were his top generals. The essential thing that we need to learn is that the principle of what is called the big lie is still employed today as a psychological programming mechanism that will brainwash people through psyops or psychological operations to do things that they would not normally do. It is a highly powerful persuasion psychological mechanism. Now, so the big lie is still operative today. Let me give you an example. The Jewish people specifically, they had all kinds of warning signs, all kinds of clues regarding their fate. They were forced to wear, yellow stars to signify that they were Jews. So when the Nazi SS troops would break into the businesses or homes or apartments of Jews to seize them and send them into concentration camps, they had all kinds of forewarnings, like forcing them to wear a yellow star, certain ways they were treated, certain words that were used. They were depicted in movie theaters and in propaganda cartoons. The Jews were depicted as less than human on a repetitive basis. They were depicted as less than human. So all kinds of derogatory, subhuman messaging was being deployed against the consciousness of the German people and the Jews themselves. So they were called ghettos. In the social environments that were populated heavily by Jews, which were called ghettos, and there were walls around them, and the Jews were forced to live in ghettos in isolation from the rest of the German people. And they would talk among themselves, and occasionally somebody would bring up a rumor or something that they heard about the alleged atrocities that were occurring inside of the concentration camps, such as the gassing to death of Jews, such as the burning of Jews alive in ovens, such as the torturing of Jews in so-called medical MK Ultra experiments. All these atrocities the leaders of the Jews heard about, but in the vast majority of cases, the reports were so horrific that the Jewish leaders and the Jews could not bring themselves to believe the truthful accounts about what they heard that was going to happen to them. They could not believe it. Okay, and therefore instead they believed the big lie. So they couldn't believe that these atrocities were actually happening. They couldn't believe that the Nazis were actually as evil as they were. And remember, Hitler, who was heavily financed by the international bankers, he was running, for all effect, a form of the scientific dictatorship. Nazi Germany was an embodiment of the scientific dictatorship. American science, Rockefeller science regarding genetics, eugenics, selective breeding, etc., they were all taken from the Rockefeller laboratories in Cold Spring, New York, and brought into Nazi Germany for direct application. Pretty heavy stuff. But nobody could bring themselves to believe that Hitler was prepared to do precisely what he threatened to do. So this is the lesson that we absolutely must learn. It's imperative that you and I learn this lesson. We must absolutely not fall into the mistake or the belief patterns that the Jews succumbed to, because it resulted in their demise. We must understand that the evil powers in the world that existed during the time of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, those evil powers in the world still exist today and excuse me, and they're operative today. So the evil powers that the Bible speaks about, for example, in Ephesians chapter 6, for our fight is not against flesh and blood or people, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the dark unseen forces of wickedness in heavenly places. Ephesians is communicating a reality to us. It's communicating to us that there exists invisible evil powers, which the Bible designates as demonic powers, fallen angels, principalities and powers, the dark unseen forces of wickedness in heavenly places. These are a hierarchy of Luciferian and satanic powers that are currently operating in the physical world reality that we live in. We must come to terms with that and not just blow it off. We have to understand that these evil powers still exist, and that these evil powers are going to increase in their diabolical plans as we move deeper and deeper into the last days. There is not a diminishing of the demonic powers in the time period that we live in. Clearly, the Bible suggests that there is an acceleration, a massive quantum acceleration of demonic, invisible realm evil powers that is proliferating in our world right now, even as we speak. And so these evil powers operate in conjunction with billionaire, trillionaire, super millionaire, occultic, globalist elite families who, according to their own testimony, they constitute what they call the Illuminati bloodline families. And what that means is that these so-called Illuminati bloodline families, these are family lines where members of the family line with the same DNA, with the same genetic code, mate sexually with other Illuminati bloodline families, even if it means potentially risking genetic mutations in the offspring. So they intermarry sometimes, and they mate within other Illuminati bloodline families. And these are the families that allegedly, according to them, not according to me, according to them, these are the families that control the world through money, power, occultism, technology, and other advanced sciences and advanced technologies. These are the families that allegedly are the offspring of what happened when the fallen angels descended from heaven, and they descended upon Mount Hermon, 200 Enochian fallen angels. And these 200 Enochian fallen angels that descended upon Mount Hermon looked upon human females with human female DNA. They looked upon them with sexual lust. They mated with the human females. And the human females produced, along with the fallen angel DNA, the human female DNA, produced a hybrid race, which was an illicit mixture of human female DNA with fallen angel DNA, thus producing a hybrid species known as the Nephilim or the Rephaim. And the Illuminati bloodline families claim to have a direct genealogical, a direct genetic link to women who mated with fallen angels, all the way back to the time of the flood of Noah and all the way back and interspersed in our current time frames. So these families are allegedly in control of the earth and the earth's population. These families access a super enhancement of intelligence, perception, invention, and psyops, psychological warfare. They access it, and they understand better than most Christians do. They understand that there is an unlimited pool of infinite knowledge adjacent to our dimension. That dimension might be called, among other names, the ether, the invisible world, the spiritual world, and according to the fallen angel lore and according to fallen angel philosophies, these Enochian angels are able to download information, data, science, and technology from another dimension and then employ it in the form of things like directed energy weapons, genetic modification, futuristic sciences, futuristic technologies. They're all being employed by these fallen angels for the purpose of, according to their words, subjugating or enslaving the inhabitants of planet Earth. Now, I know that sounds huge. It does sound huge. But it happens to be true. Look at what the big sin was in the days of Noah, just before God judged all the fish, all the animals, birds, all the human beings who allowed their DNA or genetic code to be corrupted prior to the flood of Noah. God judged them for corrupting their DNA, for corrupting authentic human DNA, for corrupting it with fallen angel DNA. And that corruption was so vile in the eyes of God that he judged the world with a great flood judgment. And in effect, he exterminated or killed off all these genetic hybrids with fallen angel DNA, or who were subjected to fallen angel DNA experimentation. So that's a pretty big thing. Now, all of this dovetails into this great archetypical battle between good and evil, the archetypical battle between God and the devil, this great battle in the invisible realm between Satan or Lucifer, the fallen angels, the demons, the devils, the principalities and powers, all the human beings who have rejected God and his salvation. All of these entities are waging war in multiple dimensions against God, God's angels of various rankings, and all those humans that are following God and are born again by the Spirit of God. This is the great battle of our time. And this is the primary battle that's featured in Bible prophecy. So what we have in Bible prophecy is called the apocalypsis, the unveiling of a mystery. The book of Revelation comes from the word the apocalypsis, which means the great unveiling. The mystery is revealed. That which is hidden is now made clear. And so in the book of Revelation, we see that this battle between God and Satan, because Satan, due to his corrupted nature, Satan or Lucifer, has always desired to be God, has always desired to be worshipped as God. And so Satan or Lucifer leads a rebellion against God with 1/3 of the fallen angels. And Lucifer or Satan desires to be worshipped as God in the rebuilt temple of God, which is in Jerusalem. And so the day is coming quickly when the temple will be fully rebuilt and Lucifer or Satan indwelling the Antichrist. And the Antichrist will set himself up to be worshipped in the temple of God in the center of Jerusalem. People from all around the world will gather to worship the Antichrist, who is indwelt by Satan. They will gather to worship the Antichrist. And the Antichrist will head up this counterfeit kingdom of heaven on earth, which is a one world government, a one world religion, a one world economic system, also known as the Great Reset. So the Great Reset, or the New World Order, is a satanic system of government, religion, and economics that has been repeatedly showcased before mankind, time after time, century after century, for thousands and thousands of years, primarily beginning with great fanfare, primarily beginning at or during what is known as ancient Babylon. Okay, this is Paul McGuire. You have been watching the Paul McGuire Report. Visit paulmcguire.us. That's paulmcguire.us. And remember, we are able to do what we do through partnerships such as yours. So simply ask the Lord what you can give or donate in terms of a contribution. Hey, and whatever God puts on your heart to give, just do it. And become a prayer warrior for us and stand with us as we seek to go and make disciples of all nations and communicate the reality of the gospel of Jesus Christ in a time period known as the last days.